Hello and welcome to Her Matters. I am your host. My name is Chioma Omero.
Culture of silence. Again, silence, because if you even try to say, oh, he did this to me, she did this to me, people then say, where's your proof? Are you sure?
Now, what I've seen is parents are not talking to their daughters and their sons. They are not talking to them.
So when people now think that if someone in the medical profession or in healthcare or in that field carries out the process, it would be safer.
The other part of it is the way we structured our healthcare system to actually selectively, remove these patriarchal medicine vendors out of the entire health loop. We don't officially recognize them, but there's a significant role they have to play.
Hello and welcome to Her Matters. I am your host. My name is Chioma Omero. Her Matters is a talk show series that focuses on pressing issues affecting women across the world. And today our focus is advancing family planning. And with me on the show is none other than a friend of mine who actually surprised me by showing up here. I didn't even know it was her. Amaka Momah Haruna, who happens to be my sister from another mother. We go so far back. It's not even funny. Amaka, thank you for being here. Thank you so much for being on Her Matters. So, of course, we've been discussing this issue over the past couple of episodes. We've been talking about family planning and how it affects the mother involved, how it affects the father involved, how it affects, finances, how it affects the development, all those things. But I wanted us to talk about how it affects the other children in the family. The other children. So, I want you to maybe talk about family planning as you know it, and then let's go into the other children, because I felt a need to not forget them.
That's right. Yeah, no, I mean, family planning is like planning your family well, like in the simplest of forms. How can you best make sure that you have the knowledge you need to be able to plan for a family, financially and otherwise. Mm-hmm. Just that this time around, you're going to have methods you can use to be able, as a woman, know what works for you and know how to make sure your body is okay and also you are okay mentally before you start having children again, So really that's what it encompasses as a whole. In terms of the other children, I'll speak as a doctor now. It has a lot to do around when you plan your family well. You first of all have enough resources to take care of the other children. You also have enough mental capacity as a mother and even as a father to be able to attend to the other children. Because when you are having children back to back every year, you don't have the bandwidth really to be able to attend and nurture your other children the way you are supposed to. You also don't have the financial resources you need to educate them, to send them, educate them, and all the other needs they may have. And children also, between 0 to 5, children are at an age when they need a lot of attention from their parents. You're not going to be able to do that if you have 3 children in the space of 5 years, because your 5-year-old is going to be the one taking care of your baby for you while you are trying to rest. So those are really, in terms of the other children, one of the main ways family planning plays a role.
Okay. So, Amaka, we know that when it comes to dissemination of information, it has to do with communication, and that is necessary. We know that when it comes to information about family planning, different advocacy groups are doing different things. Now, do you think or do you see maybe there being a sort of clash with so many different groups having so many different opinions and giving out so much information about family planning that it might somehow maybe either confuse people or not necessarily send the message that we want them to get? Do you think so?
Well, first of all, I think for those of us who do family planning, there's never too much information. For us, really, I think the main thing is, so far you're talking about it, no matter how much or how little, and even some, it's fine. So far you are passing across the awareness you need to pass across. The main thing is, as you said, are you giving the correct thing? Because the truth is that, to an extent, most advocacy groups and society organizations, they do pass across most of the information. But yeah, people do now, it now becomes, by the time messages pass from one person to another, it gets diffused, it gets diluted, it gets confusing with every other information, right? So that's why the Nigerian government has, at least in Nigeria, we have specific guidelines, tenets, in most standard health facilities in Nigeria. No matter what you're hearing from outside, you can always verify it by walking into a health center, asking a health worker. Even on the internet, Nigeria has the Green Dot brand. And the Green Dot, anywhere in Nigeria you see a Green Dot, any health facility, you can walk in and get very accurate family planning information. It's also available online, by Federal Ministry of Health. So based on that, so no matter what information you have, via social media or physically or even in outreaches, whatever information you get, it's always important that you go and verify for yourself. I think it can be very confusing because it's often diluted a lot by what people interpret things based on the information you give them, and they also decide what they will tell you and maybe what you want to hear, right? And maybe what you don't really want to hear. So based on the audience they are targeting, they target their messages that way. So I think the most important thing is that for us, as I said, there's never enough information. Please spread it around, but always verify. Individuals should always take it upon themselves to go and double check.
Sure it's a credible source.
Yes,
that it's coming from.
Yeah.
Very good. There's a need for the pooling of resources, and organizations are doing that. But do you think that when it comes to advancing the knowledge about family planning, do you think that organizations are doing enough with our resources being enough resources being pooled together to advance the information about family planning? Do you think so?
Yeah, well, I think that's always a challenge, especially in low and middle income countries like Nigeria, right? The resources are never enough. But just for information's sake, so I mean, as for background, how does Nigeria even get its family planning resources, right? So there's a basket fund at the federal government level, where that is managed by a UN agency, UNFPA, and where the Nigerian government puts in money, and all other donor organizations, USAID, the American government, different organizations put in money, and they try to pull in resources, but that's at the higher level, right? And then that's so when all those organizations put in money, a lot of times when foreign countries that Nigeria might seek aid from, maybe the Scandinavian countries, could see that, this country already has so much money, they're incentivized to even provide more money to the government. Right. So at the national level, at the global level, there's definitely a lot of pooling resources towards advancing information and also services of family planning very actively. Now, it now becomes more at the local level, right? Because there's a lot of things you can do nationally, but there needs to be the grassroots, reaching the market woman who is having multiple children, right? And a lot of times, there has to be a lot more work done, in terms of ensuring that even though resources are pooled so much high up there, ensuring that those pooled resources actually get to those who need it the most. So that's what I'll say around pooling resources. There needs to be a lot more work around the local level, the grassroots level, to ensure that those who now need it get it, right? Yeah.
And that the money that's even being, the resources that are even being given is used appropriately and adequately, so everybody gets sort of like there's an even sharing of.
Yeah.
Now, Amaka, on our last episode, we had one of our only male guests thus far, Mr. Abiola Oshuni, had talked about how in agrarian communities, because of the fact that there's a time for, planting and harvesting and the weather and climate, sometimes when that's done, the only other activity is that thing they do, the horizontal tango, for lack of a better word, and for them it's like even having children is having more hands to work on the farm. Now, when you think about such things, like how do you think I'm trying to figure out how do we use that sort of like as an example of why family planning is needed? When somebody's telling you that I've given birth to 5 children, I have 5 extra hands to help whatever my farm. So how does that stand against when you're talking about family planning, and maybe how does that stand against family planning
Yeah.
or for planning?
Yeah, how do you convince that kind of person?
How do you tell that
right,
kind of person
that's really family planning is the way to go?
Yes.
You know, well, I have to say I'm a bit surprised someone mentioned that, because definitely I think in the 60s, in the 70s, that was one of the main reasons. That was one of the pushbacks for family planning. But I want to believe, and I've worked 10 years in this field, we've definitely gone beyond that. You know, I definitely, let me say that Nigeria has, in some areas maybe not so much. That thinking is obviously still there because there is poverty. But definitely we've moved a lot past that, you know. For those who might still have those issues, because really people do need hands to till, there's been a lot of community. That's why, first of all, in family plan, the most important people are the community-based organizations and those grassroots structures, because they're the ones that can speak to each other. I, as someone in Lagos, a doctor, I'm not going to be able to convince that guy that, look, guy, you cannot be having, you know. But, you know, his fellow farmer who you identify, what we do is identify, like, people who are the key points, people that can actually talk to these people, engage them. Because the points, and their major engagements really is that a lot of times, these children you are having, the issue is how healthy is the child, right? Your child is farming with you, he's not strong enough, he's not going to school. Do you want to keep on having this cycle of you are just a farmer, your child is a farmer, I continue like that? Because those children, because they're working so hard, they can't focus on education. They're going to just keep on doing this. So a lot of times, their grassroots organizations encourage these farmers, give them, you know, sometimes you don't really focus on family planning can be the entry point,
right,
but a lot of times you focus on other things. So take him away from the family planning point and just say, okay, do you want
just for life?
Yeah, for life, for health, and even beyond that, for you, what do you want for your children? What do you want after this? You know, yes, you're having children now, but do you want to? You give them other options sometimes, other incentives towards which they can see that, oh, okay, even if I have 5, I don't have to keep on giving birth to these children. But first of all, I need them to be healthy. I need them to take care of me, and then that's why it's also family planning is very holistic. You provide other community structures that they can use to get revenue, you know, maybe find their wives employment. By the time the woman starts bringing money home, that man will even say, madam, it's okay, for lack of better word, close your legs, it's okay,
yes,
you know,
yes.
So, you know, you now bring other diversities and other incentives in that the man himself will be the one saying, okay, we don't really need to be doing this, because by the time their wife is working, she's bringing in income, this so-called family thing, you know. So a lot of times in family planning programming, we sometimes give them other things to look at, and at the end of the day, they are now inclined towards family planning and they see the sense in it.
Amaka, this has been an enlightening episode. Thank you so much for coming to talk to us. Thank you for bringing your expertise on this matter. Yeah. And we hope that as we keep doing these kind of things, that hopefully one day somebody will get this message and a lot more people will get this message and see the reasoning behind why we're trying to advocate for family planning. Thank you so much for coming to talk to us. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. All right.
And that's it on this episode of Her Matters. I'd like to say a big thank you to our principal partners, Worthy. We want to say a huge thank you to the Herbert Wigwe Foundation that gives us this beautiful space that we've been using, and of course the Hayseed Health Initiative. Thank you all so much for being with us, and take care of each other and be safe.